Hi Math, I'm Andy. We want to find the slope between 2 points. So if we're given 2 points on a graph, like let's say the points 2, 3 and the points -3, 7. And I want to know what's the slope of the line that goes through those 2 points, meaning how steep would a line be if it went through those two. Now let's just visualize these 2 points really quick. So I'm going to draw an x and a y axis. I have to go up to 7 on my y, over to -3 on my x, and I'll just put some hash marks down here. So this is my x-axis and this is my y-axis. The point 2, 3 means I go over 2 and I go up 3. And the point -3, 7 means I go left 3 and up 7. And ultimately, what I want to know is if I were to draw a line that went through these 2 points, what would be the slope of that given line? So here's how we want to think about it. We know that slope is generally referred to as a rise over a run. It means how far between these 2 points do you have to move up or down, and then how far do you have to move to the right or to the left. And so it's kind of numbers that are going to represent that distance. Now looking at these points, I notice that to get from the top point to the bottom point, I either have to go down a certain amount and then I have to go right a certain amount, or I can go up a certain amount and I can go left a certain amount. Now if I notice, down is always a negative direction and right is always a positive. Up is always a positive and left is always a negative. So it looks like the rise over run, no matter which way I go, down and right or up and left, is going to be a positive and a negative number being divided. So I know that I should expect a negative slope when I solve for it. Now let's think about how we can figure out this down and over situation. To get from this point here to this point here, I have to go down a certain amount. Now, when we measure the height of something, we're referencing the y value. And so if I want to take this distance, what I can do is I can figure out where is this on the y and where is this one on the y. And if I subtract those two y values, that'll tell me the difference between them. So because we have two distinct y's, we want to kind of be able to tell the difference between them. So I'm going to write one y with a little 2, and I'm going to write one of the y's with a little 1, because I know I have two different y's, and I don't want to mix them up. Now, to figure out the left and right movement, that's referring to the x values. And to figure out how far you go from here to here, what we can do is take those distances and subtract them, and that'll tell us how much space is in between. Now, just like we did with the y's, we have two distinct x's, and so I'm going to reference one as an x2 and the other as an x1. Now I notice that the x and y's of 2's are related and the x and y's of 1 are related. So let's just go back to our original 2 points and let's define one as the 1's and one as the 2's. So I'm going to take this ordered pair here, this -3 and 7, and let's call these the 2's. And let's take the 2 and 3 here and let's call these the 1's. Now we know that an ordered pair is always written as an x, y. So the first letter or first number is an x, the second number is a y. And so to put these into this, we'll call this the slope formula. I get y2, that's my 7, minus y1, that's the 3, over x2, that's the -3, minus x1, that's the 2. And now, because this is really a division problem and there is subtraction in both the numerator and denominator, The order of operations actually says that we complete or simplify the numerator and denominator as much as we can before we do the division. So we're actually going to do the subtraction. 7 minus 3 is 4, and negative 3 take away 2 is negative 5. Now we could divide this into a decimal, but because slope is generally referenced as a fraction rise over run, I think 4 over negative 5 is a good answer. But one thing to consider, when we talk about graphs, just like we read books, in English, we read from left to right. So when I look at 4, 4 is positive. That means you go up. And when I look at a 5 that's negative, that's going to go left. And so that's up and left. But because we want to reference it as right, I'm going to instead put the negative with the 4 and the positive with the 5 and call this a negative 4 over positive 5. Just so this tells me that I go down 4 and I go right 5. Now both answers are acceptable, but I like the negative 4 over 5 a little better. Now that we've seen the 2 points and we've seen the formula, let's kind of quickly show another example. Let's say we have the 2 points, negative 2, negative 4, and the point 0, 4. Now we know the formula and we know the 2 points. We can just put this into the formula and solve. So let's call negative 2 the x1 and negative 4 the y1. Let's call 0 the x2 and 4 the y2. So my formula will say 4 minus negative 4 over 0 minus negative 2. I wrote these in parentheses because I'm subtracting a negative number, and so I want to do my adding opposites trick. 4 minus negative 4 is like 4 plus 4, so I end up with 8. 0 take away negative 2 is the same as 0 plus 2, so I get a 2. And 8 divided by 2 is equal to 4 over 1. So this tells me that the slope between these 2 points is I go up 4 over 1. Up 4 over 1.